parallel plate capacitor is connected to a battery fully charged and isolated from the battery. Plates are given equal and opposite charge densities sigma, and the separation between the plates is d as shown in the figure to the right. The area of each plate has a value of A. Part A. Derive an expression for the energy stored in the capacitor. Express your answer in terms of sigma, d, A, and physical constants as appropriate. So maybe you don't remember what the energy stored on a capacitor is, but luckily the equation sheet does tell us that the energy stored on a capacitor is 1/2 the charge on the capacitor times the voltage difference across it, which is not all that useful. But we also know that for a capacitor, the charge stored on it is the capacitance times its voltage difference. So we can turn this around and say the voltage difference, which was not given, is Q over C. And going back over here, then we have 1/2 Q times Q over C, or 1/2 Q squared over C. And now we don't have the voltage difference, which wasn't given anyway, but we do need to figure out the charge stored on one plate, but that's not too bad. We have 1/2C, and then the charge is going to be sigma times A. So we're going to get, and then squared, of course. So sigma squared A squared over 2C. Still not done though, because of course we don't have C, but we do know that the capacitance of a parallel plate capacitor depends on the permittivity, and that it grows with the area but falls with the distance. This is also on the equation sheet. They usually have a kappa in there, but we have this filled with air, so we know the kappa is 1. So now we can finish processing our thing to get sigma squared A squared over 2 sigma A over epsilon naught A over D. So let's see, we get a D, we get a sigma squared, one of the areas cancels, and then we have 2 epsilon naught. While the capacitor is isolated from the battery, an uncharged metal slab of thickness X and area A is inserted between the capacitor plates so it has an equal distance from the two plates as shown in the figure to the right. Part B. On the figure above, draw an arrow to indicate the direction of the electric field in the following 3 regions of space between the capacitor plates. If the electric field is 0 in any region, indicate this by writing E equals 0 in that region. And the 3 regions are between the top plate and this metal slab, inside the metal slab, and between the bottom plate and the metal slab. A couple of things that we should probably pull out here to keep track of. Still isolated from the battery, that's good. The metal slab was uncharged, that's worth knowing. It is equidistant, that might be useful later. And then make sure that we indicate this, right? So what ends up happening? Well, remember that we have positive charge on the top. They can't do anything. We've got negative charge on the bottom. They were equal and opposite. The metal slab is neutral but has positive and negative charges, and we know that they're going to be pulled so that there will be negative charges here and positive charges here. And the idea is, of course, what ends up happening is electric field always goes from plus to minus. So we get something like that. And from plus to minus, so something like that. But inside the slab, it's 0 field, because it's inside a conductor, and we know there's an electric field inside a conductor. Part C. Rank the regions below according to the magnitude of the electric field, with 1 being the largest magnitude. If any regions have the same magnitude of electric field, give them the same ranking. So we go here and we say, well, clearly 0 will be less than the others, so they're not all going to have the same ranking. But we also know that the electric field between 2 large plates is dependent only on sigma of the plates. And we know that of course, we've picked up negative sigma on the top plate, and we've picked up positive sigma on the bottom, sorry, not on the plates, but on the parts of the slab. And so the electric field is actually the same in the top and bottom parts. So they would be 1, and then it's 0 between them, so there'd be a 2 there. Part D, is the capacitance of the capacitor with the metal slab greater than, less than, or equal to capacitance of the original capacitor without the slab? So let's think about this. We have taken our one capacitor and we have essentially made it into two series capacitors because the metal slab in the middle can just be considered to be a wire. If we call this the original C0, then each of these, which I'm going to call each C1, is going to be epsilon area over the new separation, which I'll call X, but X is 1/3 D, so it's going to be 3 epsilon naught A over D, or 3 times the original. So we have that each new capacitor is 3 times the original capacitor. Now our equivalent capacitance, 1 over their equivalent capacitance, is 1 over C1 plus 1 over C1, which of course is 2 over C1. And so the equivalent capacitance is 1/2 of C1, which is 1/2 of 3C0, which is 3/2 C0, which is greater. So we get that it's a greater than. The rubric here is mildly amusing. It says, for selecting greater than and any attempt at a relevant justification, you get 1 point. And for a correct justification, you get another point. So if you just said greater than and didn't write anything, you wouldn't get any credit. But if you check it and write really anything at all, you get 1 point. Some other examples, besides the one I used, they also say that inserting the metal slab effectively increases the distance over which the field exists in the capacitor. Since the distance is effectively smaller, the capacitance is increased. Sure. Or inserting the metal slab decreases the extent of the electric field between the plates, which lowers the electric potential across them. If the potential of a plate is lower and the charge remains constant, the capacitance increases. So there were lots of ways to justify this. Part E. When charged to the original charge density, is the energy stored in the capacitor with the metal slab greater than, or less than, or equal to the original energy stored in the capacitor as calculated in Part A? Well, remember that the energy was Q squared over 2C. We haven't changed this part, but we've made this bigger, so the energy is smaller. We should get less than. And they have the same kind of thing, 1 point for saying less than and giving any justification that is consistent with Part D, and that's important, and then another point for a correct. Part F, which is kind of a very long problem. Some physics students conduct an experiment in which they charge the capacitor to the same potential difference, isolate it from the battery, insert the metal slab, and measure the new potential difference across the capacitor. This experiment is repeated with slabs of different thickness. The plot of the potential difference delta V across the capacitor as a function of the thickness x of the slab is shown below. A best fit line for the data has been drawn. And here's our data. Roughly, they're saying that we now are going to have this, but we have put in some slab of length x. Remember that the original length was d, so these must each be d minus, it must be 1/2 of d minus x. Don't know if that'll be relevant, but it could be. All right, let's scroll up here. That's kind of irrelevant data anyway. Part F, use the best fit line drawn to calculate the following. 1, the sigma, the charge density on the plates, and eventually 2, d, the distance between the capacitor plates. Well, we know that the electric field around a parallel plate capacitor at least is sigma over epsilon, because we can treat the parallel plate capacitor as 2 infinite plates, each of which gives us a sigma over 2 epsilon in their for their field, and then they add. We also know that the electric field is minus the slope of the potential. So we can say here that sigma is epsilon naught E, so it's minus epsilon naught E times dV dx. So cleaning up my writing a little bit, sigma is going to be minus, we got to look up epsilon, which is, I'm going to actually write this somewhere where I have a little bit more room. Oops. So let's go here and say sigma is minus epsilon naught, which is pulled from our equation sheet as 8.85 times 10 to the minus 12 in crazy units, which are coulombs per Newton times meter squared. And then we got to estimate the slope, which is negative. And if I go up here, I'm going to say, so the slope is going to be, I'm going to take, too easy to read the points. So I'm going to take that point, and I guess I'm going to take that point. So my latter point is at 5 volts, and at, let's see, it is a distance of 2 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 intervals, so 0.4 each, right? 8.4, 8.8, 9.2, 9.6, yeah. So that's 8.4 centimeters, so I should keep that in mind. And then the initial point looks to be 20 volts over 2 centimeters. And then I want to say there are 100 centimeters per meter to get myself a standard unit. Sorry, a bit of a glitch, and I'm just going to cross it out. This, of course, I should not have put this extra minus in here. I'm going to take care of the minuses already. I should have just done it straight and never done it. When you put all of this together, you get something like 2.07 times 10 to the minus 9 coulombs per meter square. So, and then to reiterate, part F, subpart 2 is find D, the distance between the capacitor plates. And there's sort of two ways to go about this. There's a semi-formal way that's going to say that the voltage difference is going to be the electric field times, let's call it the path difference, how far that field is applied. But in our case, where we have this with this capacitor and then the slab of right, so we're talking about integrating, if you would like, these electric field lines, which is fine. And we know the voltage is going to be electric field integral of the electric field times dl, but the electric field is either constant or zero. So what we're really going to get is the electric field times the part of the region that is not inside the capacitor, or inside the slab. So if that is x, then this region plus this region together are L, which are just D minus X. So I'm going to end up with that this is the electric field times D minus X, but we know the electric field is sigma over epsilon, so I get something like this, which means I should be able to solve this over and say that D minus X is epsilon V over sigma, or D is X plus epsilon over sigma times V, where V is the voltage. So then I can go back and pull off some convenient, I should be able to go and pull off some convenient value of this. So I might take the 0.02 meters and then take our guy, which remember actually had epsilon in it, so I could probably do a cleverer thing, but I don't have to. 2.07 times 10 to the minus 9 coulombs times the 20 volts, and we get 0.106 meters, or 10.6 centimeters. And that's a sort of grungy but convenient way to get it. There's an alternate way. If we let the slab get larger and larger, and we let x get approach D, well, we know that when x equals D, we'll have a conductive path from the top to the bottom plate. All the charge will flow together, and there'll be no voltage because there'll be nothing left on the capacitor, and therefore when v equals 0, we should be at x equals d. But v equals 0 on this graph is going to be where it crosses the axis. So maybe I want to extend this, and I'm going to say, let's extend this line. And we see that again, it's at like 10.4-ish or so, if we extend the line, which is close enough, I think, to get what we want. And the rubric does allow you to do either of these methods pretty easily. So there we go.